Welcome back to another episode of Post Grad with Asha, NCE edition. Today, we're going to talk about B.F. Skinner, and my name is Asha. I'm a licensed professional counselor supervisor in the state of Texas and in Missouri. I operate a small private practice in Central Texas, and I thoroughly enjoy teaching. I currently hold a national counselor certification, a Texas educator certificate, and registered play therapist distinction. This video will be the start of me discussing additional theories and stakeholders in the development of psychology with a hint of sample questions at the end. So who is B.F. Skinner? So B.F. Skinner was an American psychologist known for his work in behaviorism and operant conditioning. He conducted important experiments, particularly with the Skinner box, to show how behavior can be shaped by rewards and punishments. Skinner's ideas have influenced psychology, education, and therapy. So what is operant conditioning? So you might have heard me mention in the previous slide, rewards and punishments, a key detail you're going to need to remember when thinking about Skinner. So operant conditioning is a learning process through which behaviors are modified by their consequences. It involves the use of rewards or reinforcement to encourage desirable behaviors and punishments to discourage undesirable ones. Developed by B.F. Skinner, this approach emphasized that behaviors followed by positive outcomes are more likely to be repeated, while those followed by negative outcomes are less likely to occur again. Operant and classical conditioning are two fundamental concepts in behavioral psychology developed by Ivan Pavlov and B.F. Skinner. Here is a breakdown of the difference between the two. Classical conditioning. When you think of classical, Pavlov sounds like a classical pianist. So that's a way to maybe remember which word goes with who. So when you think about Pavlov, think classical, pianist, music, P, classical, Pavlov, piano. Mix it how you need to. That's what helped me remember it when I was taking an exam years ago. Classical conditioning, or Ivan Pavlov, or is a learning process in which a neutral stimulus becomes associated with an unconditional stimulus to elicit a conditioned response. So remember, Pavlov, bell, piano, he makes music. Keep all those words kind of together to help you remember. Now remember, he was not necessarily anticipating on changing a behavior or an outcome per se. He stumbled upon how a neutral stimulus can be associated with an unconditioned stimulus. So keep that in mind. All right, with operant conditioning, which is who our focus is on today, but I just needed to make sure I scaffolded in information about Pavlov in this video. So with operant conditioning by B.F. Skinner, okay, it is a process of learning where behaviors are modified by their consequences, such as rewards or punishments. So Skinner, rewards or punishments. Skinner, rewards or punishments. SRP might be a way to remember that, just because I can't think of anything fun for that one specifically, but Skinner, rewards, punishments, SRP, or SROP, Skinner, rewards, operant, punishment, or OSRP, however you need to remember that, put those four letters together, and that will help you remember Skinner. Okay, so his experiments were through the use of the Skinner box, in which he invented, to demonstrate how a rat would learn to process a lever to receive food, which is essentially a positive reinforcement, or to avoid shock, which is a negative reinforcement. So he focuses on the role of reinforcements and punishments in shaping behaviors, okay? Key differences. Classical conditioning involves automatic responses. And when I think classical, think Pavlov, think pianist, bell, he makes music, okay? When it comes to operant conditioning, it involves voluntary behaviors, okay? Another mechanism of learning when it comes to classical conditioning, it focuses on the associations of stimuli. With operant conditioning, it focuses on the consequences of an action. Okay? All right. So I didn't put a bunch of words on this particular slide because I did not want to confuse you while I was talking. But keep in mind, SROP, operant conditioning, Skinner, reinforcements, punishments. Keep those things in mind. All right, so let's get into what are actual rewards or reinforcements. Okay. Rewards, positive reinforcement involves providing a rewarding stimulus after a desired behavior, which increases the likelihood of that behavior being repeated. For example, the rat pushing down the lever and receiving food. That's a positive reward. Negative reinforcement. It involves the removing of an unpleasant stimulus when a desired behavior occurs, such as the likelihood of that of a behavior. For example, a rat is less likely to push down the lever if they know that they're going to get shocked. Okay. So positive reinforcement, we want it to be repeated and it's a rewarding stimulus. All right. So what are punishments? Punishments entails introducing an unpleasant stimulus after an undesired behavior. I'm giving you an unpleasant stimulus after an unpleasant behavior with the hopes that you will stop doing whatever the thing is that I don't want you doing. All right, positive punishment, we're going to introduce something. That doesn't necessarily mean that the stimulus is positive itself. Remember when we talked about this with classical conditioning, positive doesn't always necessarily mean something positive. It just means adding something to something, okay? So we're going to introduce a positive punishment. We're going to introduce a stimulus to this situation after we witnessed or experienced an undesired behavior. And I hope that you would stop doing what I asked for you to do, which is why it's connected positive punishment. I'm going to put something in here to stop you from doing what you've been doing that I don't like that you're doing. Okay. So a negative punishment is where you remove an item. So when you think positive punishment and negative punishment, think adding and subtracting. Don't think good or bad. Adding or subtracting. Of course, punishment is a bad thing, but think add or subtract. That is going to help you keep from making a mistake on the exam, because oftentimes people make the mistake of when they hear positive punishment, they think, oh, we're going to add something good to this situation. No, we're going to add something that creates an aversive response or a negative response, or that is a negative stimulus to whatever the situation is, okay? Negative punishment, we're going to remove a pleasant stimulus. So again, that doesn't necessarily mean that it is necessarily a negative thing we're removing from the situation. We're removing a stimulus, a pleasant stimulus, to decrease the undesired behavior. For example, that is when your parents take away toys, or if you are a parent or if you're an older sibling and you manage the behaviors of the household, you are removing a video game because this kiddo has not done their homework. And our plan of removing that video game is the hopes that our kid or our sibling or whatever this kid is to us will start doing their homework, or will reduce the amount of time that they spend in avoiding their homework. Okay. All right. So think Skinner, think consequences. Okay. Consequences come when you think about Skinner. All right. So what is a Skinner box? All right. This is a picture of the Skinner box. It is essentially a box where there's a lever. That's where the consequences come into play. So I think when they first did the research, or when they first developed this box, when you push down the lever, food would come. Then they started to add in, okay, well, if you do this, a shock will come. All right. So it's a special kind of box or cage that scientists use to study how animals learn. It's named after Skinner. Okay. How does it work? So inside the box, there's a button or a lever, which you guys can see. That is where the mouse has their hand at. And when the animal, like a rat or a bird, pushes the lever, they usually get a treat like food. This helps them to learn to push the button to receive food, or that it is a good thing to push this lever. Why is this box so important? Well, by watching how animals behave, scientists can understand how rewards like food can encourage animals to do certain things. It helps us learn how we all learn new things, not just animals. So, we place the rat inside of this box, and the rat pushes the lever down and it dispenses food. It was designed to control the environment to help minimize distractions. So when the rat pressed the lever down, a small amount of food would be released as a reward. At first, the rat might accidentally press the lever, but eventually it learned that pressing the lever led to food. So Skinner observed that the rat would press the lever more and more, often as it learned this action resulted in a reward. This demonstrated the concept of positive reinforcement. The experiment helped Skinner show how behavior can be shaped and reinforced, laying the groundwork for the principles of operant conditioning. It has since influenced areas like education, training, and behavior modification. All right, so that's all you need to know about Skinner. Skinner box, punishments, reinforcements or rewards, and operant. Okay, those are the 4 or 5 things you need to remember when it comes to Skinner. So now let's get into sample questions. Which of these is an example of negative reinforcement? So I'm going to pause and let you guys answer that, but I'll read them. So which of the following is an example of a negative reinforcement or of negative reinforcement? Answer choice A, giving a kid a cookie for cleaning their room. Answer choice B, taking away chores when the kid gets good grades. Answer choice C, yelling at a pet for being nosy. Answer choice D, ignoring a messy room. All right, it is going to be B as in Bravo, or boy. So answer choice A is not a negative reinforcement. This is a positive reinforcement, okay? Because I'm adding in a positive stimulus because you're doing a positive behavior. So I'm positively reinforcing the good behavior, okay? Yelling at a child for being nosy is a punishment, not a reinforcement. Ignoring a messy room is not a reinforcement or a punishment, okay? Next question. In Skinner's experiment with rats, what happened when the rats pressed the lever? Answer choice A, the box opened. Answer choice B, the rat got scared. Answer choice C, the rat received food. Answer choice D, the lights turned off. I'll give you a little bit. Alrighty. When the rat pressed the lever, it learned it would get food as a reward. Okay? All right. What does positive reinforcement mean? A, punishing a behavior. B, encouraging a behavior by giving a reward. C, ignoring a behavior. Or D as in Delta, changing behavior without any help. So I'm going to give you about 5 to 10 seconds to figure that one out. Alrighty, it is going to be B as in Bravo. So keep in mind, positive means to add something. Reinforcement means we're going to reinforce the positive behavior or the good things that are happening. So I'm going to encourage the behavior by giving you a reward. Ignoring the behavior, it doesn't do anything. D as in Delta, changes the behavior without any help. That doesn't do anything. It doesn't involve anything. There's no feedback for it. Alrighty, and then we're going to get into the last question. So what is the Skinner box primarily used for? A, to keep animals safe. B as in Bravo, to study how animals learn. C as in Charlie, to feed animals. D as in Delta, to play with animals. Alrighty, so it is going to be B as in Bravo, to study how animals learn. So I hope I did not confuse you guys when talking about the difference between Skinner and Pavlov. And keep in mind, Pavlov, classical, natural stimuli. Skinner, operant, reinforcements, punishments, consequences. Okay? Skinner had the Skinner box, and Pavlov had the bell. Those are all the things you need to remember. If you don't remember nothing else, keep those things in mind. And remember, positive means to add something, negative means to remove something. Reinforcement means to continue a behavior. Punishment means to reduce or stop a behavior from occurring. All right. So I hope that was helpful. I hope I was trying to do under 10 minutes, y'all, but I couldn't get under 10 minutes, but that's neither here nor there. I hope you guys enjoy the video and be on the lookout for our next Post Grad with Asha NCE edition.